Hello and welcome to the 7th bonus video in the 20 years of MCF celebration. I'm MCFPapa. In this video I'll be reviewing the second of the Blackpool Mysteries series of books titled Vanished. This book was once again published by Harlequin, who also published such titillating novels as Boss's Christmas Baby Acquisition, Captain Amberton's Inherited Bride, and Christmas with a Chimera. The writing style's the same as the last book, and something interesting is that while they reference the initial murder of Stolen, they don't discuss the culprit of that book at all. I assume this was so a person starting with Vanished would be more willing to buy the earlier entry as well, and so that's why they didn't want to spoil it for them. There seems to be even more references to real-world stuff in this than there were in Stolen. The references I found funniest were that they referenced the Holy Hand Grenade from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and that they say Johnny Depp gives a contemporary swashbuckler portrayal who swished as much as he swashed. That's probably the strangest way I've ever seen someone describe Captain Jack Sparrow. Also, for connections, there are a lot more connections to the MCF series in this book, both real connections and things that perhaps might be interpreted as vague connections. At one point they reference a Mademoiselle Fate fortune teller, but she seems to be totally separate from Madame Fate, so maybe she's a trademark infringer on the legendary Fates Carnival. At one point, a character is described as playing a big fish in a small pond. That is such a weird and uncommon phrase that it has to have been written as a reference to Big Fish games, surely. Characters visit a pub and drink Somerset Stout. It's spelled with 2 M's in the book when the games spell the name with 1, but surely that's meant to be a connection. Perhaps after his wife and daughters went missing and were declared dead, Reginald Somerset spent his time drinking to drown his sorrows, but perhaps while drinking he learned about what makes a good beer and decided to start his own brewery in Blackpool. Who knows? Ravenhurst itself has a far more significant role in this book's plot. The book describes the mansion as a charred ruin this time around, not just a ruin, so that confirms that the books are after a return to Ravenhurst when it burned down. It's mentioned that there are a ton of tunnels and caves around the mansion that people like to explore, and we see these tunnels in the games with the many underground complexes we visit. And at the end of the book, Michael and Molly are chasing the villain all the way to Ravenhurst Manor. It's only a handful of pages for the climax, but it's cool to have a small part of the book actually set at Ravenhurst. Michael even sees a strange figure in the distance at the end. Maybe it's supposed to be Charles, or maybe it's meant to be Victor setting up the events of Escape from Ravenhurst. I'm surprised they put this in book 2, because I thought they would have saved any major connections to Ravenhurst until the final book, but who knows, maybe the Grahams will actually explore inside Ravenhurst's ruins in one of the other 2 entries. For the plot, the book is set a few months after the events of Stolen. Michael and Molly have developed a bit of a reputation as mystery solvers in the town. This time around, Michael's good friend Dylan Stewart has been accused of a murder. Willie Myers has wound up dead, and he was searching for a treasure and valuable coins stolen from Eastern Europe that found its way to Blackpool. I think it's a bit comical that there's two valuable treasures that wound up in the Blackpool area, and that both have murders associated with them. But I suppose that's one of the core tropes of the mystery novel genre, and at the very least the two stories have their investigations play out completely differently in terms of the plot of the mysteries. I'm predicting that the last two books in the series will also have this sort of find a treasure and a murder plot point, but presumably they'll also change things up as they go. I do like Dylan Stewart as a character. It's nice for Michael to have a more personal stake in this book's mystery, while Molly was more connected to the last book's mystery. However, I didn't like how Dylan was only introduced in this book, where he becomes an important character. I wish they at least gave a passing mention to him in Stolen. I was correct that many of the characters introduced in Stolen came back for this book, with some like Rohan Wallace, Michael's Jamaican friend, and Constable Fatherby, the policeman, having much larger roles than they had in Stolen. But what surprised me is how this book also added a ton of new characters to supplement the already large group of people we know about in Blackpool. It's a massive roster, and presumably even more will be added in the next two books. But thankfully it wasn't hard to remember the core cast who are directly tied to the mystery, and at the very least all the extra characters help the town of Blackpool itself to feel a lot more fleshed out in this book compared to Stolen. Especially since the town is celebrating the Seafaring Days festival in this book, which makes all the descriptions of stuff in town seem a lot more lively, with all the people wearing costumes and going around. Overall, I'd say I like Vanished more than Stolen. I feel it did a better job with its mystery progression, and I like how it at least tried a bit harder to connect itself to Ravenhurst. Hopefully this series is an upward trajectory where I like each entry more and more, and I would assume that's how it goes, because surely Mel Odom uses the experience of writing the last book to improve writing the next one. There were a lot of pirate references in both this and Stolen, so I'm thinking that surely there must be an actual pirate treasure mystery in either of the next two books. I'm leaning toward the next book titled Submerged being the one with the pirate connection, but we'll just have to see in the next book review, so like and subscribe if you want, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next bonus video I post.